तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ जयन्ती मङ्गलकाली भद्रकाली कपालिनी दुर्गा क्षमा शिवदात्री स्वाहा स्वादा नमोस्तुते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Sairam Lin, Sairam from Malaysia.
Sairam Sharma, Sairam from New Zealand. Thank you, Bhagwan, for permitting Sharma and I to share this somewhat shocking story about Christmas 2012. And we welcome our listeners and hope you can take this story to heart and even enjoy parts of it. Because it was an extraordinary experience for this storyteller, and this is the first time I have shared it. So it was Christmas 2012, and it was the 22nd day of Christmas, and this is the time when a letter is presented to Swami when he was in the physical body, a card asking Swami to open Christmas, to start Christmas, and then once he did that, the festivities could begin decorating the mandir and so on, rehearsing plays, practicing choirs. Everything rested on Swami giving that permission. Well, in 2012, Swami was not there in person to do that, and so the invitation was instead offered to the Samadhi, and it was just taken as read that Christmas could begin, because that was when it traditionally began. Now, my husband and I had chosen to travel to the ashram by ourselves because I was volunteering for Radio Sai and there was plenty to do. But the New Zealand team was in charge of decorating the mandir, and many of my friends were part of that team, and the team was given a shed behind North 5 to do all the work preparing the decorations. The decorations had been already flown over in cargo, so they were already there waiting to be unpacked in the shed. So you can imagine there was quite a rush on to get everything done. However, the team worked very rapidly and quickly, and pretty soon they had the mandir looking absolutely beautiful. And there were so many decorations left over. And because I was at Radio Sai and there were no decorations there, I said to professors, Professor, could I get some decorations that are left over? Oh, yes, he said, please do. So I called my porter and a rickshaw man to go to the shed. This was about 8 o'clock at night on the 22nd, I think it was, 23rd. That's right, 23rd. And of course, there were whole barrels full of leftover decorations. Radio Sai didn't have access to any decorations, and so I offered to ask our team, could I have some of the leftover decorations and decorate Radio Sai. And I had two little boys from our team who were so happy to help me. I had little Santa beards for them to wear, and so they were all eagerly waiting to help me. So I had permission from our chairman to come and help myself. And the decorations were all in big barrels, leftovers. There was plastic holly, there was pine branches, decorations, ribbons, Santa Clauses, even whole plastic trees that I think there was one of those left over, but I wasn't going to take one of those back to the studio. And so I walked in, the door was open, none of the team were there. They were down at the mandir putting up the decorations, but all the lights were on. And I saw the bins full of leftovers, and so I motioned to my boys to come and help. We will just take, not take too much, just take enough that I thought I could do a pretty good job of decorating the studio. So we were busily filling some big plastic bags with decorations, when all of a sudden I heard this unfamiliar voice say to me, "What do you think you're doing?" And I thought, who can this be? And they didn't even siren me. So I saw a man standing there. He was sort of maybe 38, 39. And I recognized him, but I didn't know him. He was from some other country. And he said, you can't take those decorations. And I said, but I have permission from my chairman. And I named my chairman. I said, then I introduced myself. I said, I'm Lynn. I'm from Radio Psi. You know, and I have told the studio that I will be using some leftovers to decorate the studio. And I have permission from the director. And he said, that's not good enough. And he said, I am in charge here. Now, I don't know. I didn't even know who he was. But he was obviously very, very official, kind of, let's say, full of himself. And I said, well, I'm sorry, Saram, but that is not a good enough explanation for me. He said, well, I am in charge of all of what goes on here in this zone. And I said, is that so? Well, I am in charge of chocolate drops and lollipops and hopscotch and jumping rope. And I am in charge of decorating Radio Psi. Now, I have to confess, my listeners, I can be a bit cheeky when someone tries to boss me around. I stand up for myself. It might be the American in me, but I like to think it's the Psi in me. Please forgive me, Swami, but that's just how Lynn is. So then he said, I forbid you to take these, or I will call the Saber dolls. And I said, oh, is it? I said, and who are you? And he said, I am so-and-so, and I am a very famous designer back in my country. I have won this and that prize and award, and on he went. And I said, oh, is that so? You are a great designer, and tell me, have you designed your own tombstone? That was the wrong thing to say, dear listeners. His face turned red, and I thought I saw smoke coming out of his eyes and ears. He was so angry. He said, if you don't do as I tell you right now, I will have you thrown out of the ashram. And you know what? I felt tears prickle my eyes. And suddenly I thought, Swami, how can this happen in your ashram? And I can't tell you how many people must have asked Swami that question mentally when they came up against an unpleasant experience, something that was devoid of love. And I've heard Swami say, just go, just go. And I went outside. My porter and my rickshaw man saw me with tears in my eyes, and they said, oh, Mom, don't cry. They were terribly, they'd never seen me cry. And I said, no, it's all right. Please go home. Please come tomorrow. I don't know what we are going to do. And all I wanted to do was get back to my room, turn out the lights, and cry myself to sleep. For some reason, all this emotion came up in me, and the ashram is like that. It is so powerful. The vibrations are so powerful that, you know, everything can be going along in one direction, and you think you're doing fine, and then all of a sudden, all this emotion wells up in you. Swami is drawing it out of you. And I think when someone says to you, don't you know who I am, that to me is the epitome of ego. And yet I asked for it. You know, I was being cheeky right back then. I was not treating him like Swami. I had forgotten to see everyone as Swami. And so the next morning, I woke up very early, about 5 o'clock. I could hear the bells at the Lakshmi shrine, and I thought, I will go and get dressed, and before I go to darshan, I will go around to the shed just once more to see if anybody is there. And so I got dressed quickly, got my cup of coffee at the stand outside my building, and he saw me. And to my surprise, at the door of the shed was this most beautiful old man. I have never seen him before. He had a long, long white beard right down his chest. and long white hair too. And he was in the most immaculate darshan white, like crisp, like they had just been ironed, brand new. And he had the rosiest cheeks and the most beautiful blue eyes. And even though I could see he was an old man, his face was not very lined. He didn't have many wrinkles. He looked so rosy and healthy. And I thought, who is this? I've never seen that person before. And he greeted me. He bowed a little bit. He said, "Good morning, Madam Sairam. Do you want to go in?" And I said, without thinking, "Oh, yes, please. Very good, madam," he said. And he took out a key and unlocked the door. And he didn't even ask me what I wanted. So I motioned my porter in. By then he had brought the rickshaw, and we loaded that rickshaw up 4 or 5 times with decorations. It wasn't until I had finished decorating the studio with my 2 little helpers, dear little boys from New Zealand. I had dressed them up in Santa hats and beards, and the studio looked so beautiful and festive. I suddenly thought, wait, who was that old man? And he called me madam. That's what Swami calls me. Nobody calls me madam. I never saw that man again. And now I realize it was Swami there letting me in. That was a very, very special Christmas. And this is the first time I have shared this story. I guess the lesson I learned was, then don't be so cheeky when someone tells you not to do something. There's probably a good reason for it. If you use your intelligence and your wit, you will find a way around it to win your heart's desire. With Swami's help, anything is possible. Om Shri Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Om Tasmat Karunya Bhavena Raksha Sai Ishvara. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Sai Ishvara Arpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.